Eastern Florida State University. Um, they got one of their programs that they run is mobile app development. And I've got some ideas for apps development, but I've never taken any formal programming courses other than basic and Visual Basic. And Visual Basic was real rough and dirty training because basically I was training myself, but because Visual Basic is so much like Basic, which was an actual course that I took, um, it was not. And I lost. It wasn't that hard to pick it up. What happened was I went to Australia in 1998, in December of '98, and I was there. I graduated from college in June or July of '98. Got my degree, and I went. Got picked up by a company over in Australia to do set up their internet for video over internet for the 2000 Olympics. They wanted to upgrade all their systems so that they could handle the bandwidth, and it was not a bad job. It lasted about 6 months, and then the reason it only lasted about 6 months is because I found out after I got there that the guy that was running the operation was trying to sue the government because the government in Australia owns a telephone company, and he was trying to sue the government because he said the telephone company had denied him access, and so that he couldn't set up his internet service, and he wanted me to do criminal stuff, and I told him no. He wanted me to go in and edit the files that show the log for the email server, and show that the emails that he received had actually not come in for 2 weeks until 2 weeks after that he had actually received them. And then he was going to use that in court to try to say, see, 2 weeks, I lost service for 2 weeks, and you owe me blah 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 millions of dollars. And I started stepping back from that, and I started looking for another company to go work for. And of course, I'm American in Australia, and at the time the Australians were real pissed off at the Americans, and the Americans were kind of pissed off at the Australians because the Australians had America had done something, I forget what it was, but the Australians turned around and sold this band that was coming out of California that was supposed to be one of the lead groups at the front of the Olympic procession as they came into the Olympic Stadium. Told them, no, you can't come. And so then America turned around and slapped Australia and said, well, we're going to put an embargo on all your lamb. Well, guess what? America purchased, at the time, America was purchasing 70% of Australia's lamb. You know, like Baba, black sheep. And so, you know, here I am, an American in the midst of a bunch of Australians who are pissed off at America because America's wrecking their economy. And anyhow, so I ended up leaving there. And when I got back here, I went to work for a company in Kentucky. What it was a guy that owned farms that got tired of dealing with the pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer manufacturers as a private individual, or you know, as a small farm corporation. And so he started up a business called Big Rivers Agri Supply. And what their job was to do, he built some warehouses, and he bought wholesale from the chemical companies, and which bypassed the people that were giving him the problems, and stored them on site, and then provided them for all the local agricultural supply shops. So we bought wholesale, then we sold out retail, and made the profit because we were, you know, buying for less than we were selling. But part of the reason I was working there is because they needed a data entry operator. Well, because federal law dictates that you have to report all chemical sales if you're selling in large quantity, which we were. It wasn't during a good month. It wasn't bad. It wasn't unheard of to do $6 million. So Um, at $50-$60 a pop, that's a lot of product moving. So uh, the the problem came is that they had this database that was third party that the company had not written. The company that did write it wanted to charge them an arm and a leg to repurpose it so that they could do an automation process to do the reporting. Well, they said no, and started hiring part-timers during the busy season to do the data entry. Well, while I was there, they came up short on loading, so I'd go in and I'd work from like 9 in the morning till like 4 in the afternoon in the office, and then I worked from like 4:30 in the afternoon till like 7 or 8, sometimes even as late as 9, back in the loading bay, helping them process paperwork, load trucks, backing the trucks into the bay so that they could load them, going and grabbing the steers and picking up the big stuff and loading it into the truck so that they didn't have to mess with it, so they could concentrate on the small packaging stuff, because they'd take it, they'd get an order in, they'd pick an empty pallet up and start putting everything on the order that was on the order on that pallet and wrap it so that they could just, the driver could pull in, the shop would drive a skid steer on there, grab their stuff back out, and the driver drops the doors and takes off. Unless, of course, like there were times we'd load the whole truck, it'd be one stop, and it was all bulk stuff. He'd be getting like 55-gallon drums of stuff, and he'd have 8 or 10 or 12 of them on there. And we're not talking an 18-wheeler style. It's like a local delivery truck. So I said, well, I know BASIC, and if you can give me access in Excel, I can do something about this problem. And so I took access and I wrote a VB program to have access go out to the database and query it for the daily sales, and then download the information that I needed in the format that I needed into the access database. And then I used Excel to format it for printing and processing, because what I do with Excel is I put it in the format that I needed it to be in, save that file out as a comma delimited, and then the program that we were using to report would import a comma delimited file, providing everything was set up properly, and shoot it in. Then you don't have to sit there and manually type in every single entry, and that's where I learned Visual Basic at. It was fun, but nothing ever came of it. To do any sort of programming nowadays, you have to know C, and C is a whole different beast to Visual Basic. Oh, that's right. I forgot I had that on here. So I've got the program Rocksmith. Back in 2013, 2012, I decided, I grew up playing in band. I was a saxophonist, and thing that you can't just leave sitting and pick it up like you can a guitar. Saxophone. Plus, it's not